Hello, I'm Mr. Polk, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'd like to share with you a family favorite, a family tradition, and that is chocolate peanut butter eggs. So the way we start is we're going to start with some cream cheese, about 8 ounces. You put that in your bowl. And we're going to use the KitchenAid. If you don't have that, and you want to use a hand mixer or even mix by hand, that's fine. We're going to put softened butter in, about 4 ounces, one stick. And then a cup and a half of creamy peanut butter. And I know normally in the lab I don't do recipes with peanut butter because of cross-contamination and trying to keep the lab peanut free. So this is kind of nice that here in my own kitchen I can share this with you. And then you can try it if you wish. And then I'm also going to add about a half teaspoon of vanilla. And if you wanted to make coconut eggs instead of peanut butter eggs, just substitute the cup and a half of peanut butter for a cup and a half of sweetened flaked coconut. So we're going to put our mixer in here, and we're just going to start it on stir. We don't want it to go everywhere. And then once it goes on stir, it can go up to 2, 3, 4, and you can take it up to between 4 and 5. I mean, I think 4 is pretty good. And then once it goes around, you want it to get nice and creamy, and that's when we're going to add the powdered sugar. It's about a cup and a half of powdered sugar. Now, one of the things is, the longer you let it go, the creamier it's going to get, and that incorporates more air, so even when the eggs are hard in the refrigerator, they're still soft and creamy. The only thing is it's a little harder to work with. If you find that it's too hard to work with, you don't mix them as much, and the eggs are a little harder, but then they're not as creamy. So we're going to go on low, on stir, and make sure this is in a metal bowl. And I'm just going to start feeding some of this in here. So it takes the powdered sugar. I mean, honestly, this is very similar to making vanilla buttercream icing. It's honestly the same ingredients if I was going to make icing. It's just that it's different amounts. Okay. And then once we get that going, we can start to pick up the speed. So we can take it up to about 4. I think 4 is pretty good. Once you start getting into 4, you're going to see it starting to get nice and creamy. And I'm going to turn that off, lower the bowl, and this is what we're looking at. Okay? So we're looking at it being nice and creamy that you can see it. And at this point, we need to do 2 things. We need to form it into eggs. So one of the things that we could do is we could go ahead and pipe it onto a sheet tray. I like to do that. I like to put it on a sheet tray like this, put it in a piping bag. As you can see, cut a 1-inch hole and I just pipe it into lengths. Or you could just put this whole thing in the fridge right now and you could let it chill. But you have to let it chill so that it's hard enough to work. Okay? So you can see that we have the eggs and then we have our mixture. Let me just kind of get rid of this to clear everything off. Okay, now what I want to do is put on a pair of gloves. Okay. And then you can either, if you pipe these out, like I like to pipe them out with it, just cut a big hole in the end of the piping bag, put them in the fridge, and let them chill so they're hard enough to work with. Then you can just kind of squeeze them in your hand and just kind of give them a little roll like this, and then make them look like an egg. Okay, so that looks pretty good, just like that. Or you could take a couple of spoonfuls out of the mix like this. Okay, just as much as you want. You could use a scoop if you want, and then really just make it into like a ball in your hand, and then just turn it into an egg. Okay, so it's just a ball and then an egg. And that's really it. That's really all you have to do to kind of give you the shape that you want. And again, I'll do that again. And we'll do it into a ball. And then into an egg. Okay, and you can, the size that you want is up to you. You know, we can have them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Some people even make them really big. That's totally up to you. Now it's time to actually coat them in chocolate. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of set up here with our eggs on this side, and we're going to have 2 trays. I have what I call a final tray, and a temporary tray. And then we have our chocolate. Our chocolate is coating wafers. So this is a chocolate that's designed for coating. It's a little thinner. What I did is I mixed together about 1 pound of dark, and I like to blend it a little. So I did 4 ounces of milk, blend it together, and then I take about 2/3 of that and melt it 30 seconds at a time in the microwave until it's nice and melted. And then we're not doing true tempering, but I like to do what's called seeding, and that is I like to take the rest of the chocolate that wasn't melted and put it in, mix it up, and let the heat of the chocolate melt it, and that helps to temper it. Tempering is when you melt the chocolate and align the beta crystals, and that, it's a quick way to temper it because it kind of drops the temperature down into the 90s, which is good, and it prevents the chocolate from what we call streaking. That is, the fats separate and they start to gray. So now we're going to dip. Now I don't have my candy dipping forks. I just have regular forks, and that's all right because you probably don't have candy dipping forks either. So it's good that we work together like this. You want to chill them. After you mold them, you want to chill them. But then you want to let them sit out for a minute or two because you don't want them too cold or the chocolate can crack. And all you really got to do is drop them into the chocolate and then take your fork and just kind of mix it around so it's coated. And then I just hold it by my fork and let it drip for a little bit because you don't want all that chocolate in there. And then place it on what I call the temporary tray. Now you might need to give it some help. Like I put that little skewer under there or another fork, or you could get it to roll off on you. Whatever you think works. I'll try another one. I'm just coating it in the chocolate. And bringing it up. If you have a candy fork, they only have like 2 of the tines on it. It's a little easier, but you just roll it on here. Some people use the skewers too. Some people stab them. Okay, they just go ahead and stab them with the skewer. That's a method that works too. And then what you're going to notice is because they're cold, they're going to start to set up. Now you could put these directly on your final tray. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I like to avoid in the candy business what we call footing. And footing is when the chocolate runs. So after I dip it, I'll show you again. After I dip it, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put this little guy on here just like that. And now here's what I want you to see. See how all of these that are sitting there are starting to pool. So now what I do is I carefully pick them up that are set, and then I set them on my final tray. Okay? So you got to wait until they're ready, but when they are ready, you'll be able to move them over. And I want you to notice that now the egg looks fully coated like it would commercially, and it doesn't have this foot. And this layer of chocolate is what I call a foot. Now normally this happens kind of quickly. My kitchen's a little on the warm side today, so they're not setting right away. But that's how you want to do it. So this one here looks like he's almost ready to go. It's tricky. You want to have them set, but you don't want the foot to be set. And then I transfer them. So here's where if you are working with somebody, you can share it. And again, these are like the extra little things I do. You could easily just let the mixture, like I showed you, let it in the bowl and then just scoop them and make them, let them chill, dip them and put them right on the tray like that, okay? Or you can do the secondary set. So these eggs look awesome, okay? I'm going to continue making these, and then when you join me again, I'm going to show you different techniques to decorate the eggs and make them look awesome. So thanks for baking with me today, and I hope to see you again right here at Mr. Polk's Kitchen.